third and final race is about to get underway here for the BRSCC Mazda SuperCup. And with it being a reverse grid, we've got Jack Harding, who's been leading this weekend so far at his local circuit, down in 8th position. Luke starting in front of him, and then we have Aidan Hills in 4th position. Now Aidan has told me he's going to have to get some serious legwork behind him to get away before Luke and Jack catch him, so can he do it? I'm interested to see. So we're going to hand it straight over to Andy to run you through all of the action.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, yeah, Aidan's exactly right. These race 3 reverse grid races are often won in the first couple of laps, and it was a top 8 grid reversal as well. So it's Henderson and Townsend row 1, with Stevenson and Hills crucially on row 2. Then Patrick Fletcher and Steve Roberts with the top 2 from the previous race, Herbert and Harding sharing the 4th row. Nick Rutter and Bradley Kent round out the top 10 ahead of Ray Worley, George Grant, Chris Richardson, and our late retiree from the previous race, Jack Sycamore, whose car, for some mysterious reason, stopped on the exit of the final corner, frustratingly. But there is drama already. Aidan Hills is out before the race gets underway. The car has expired on the green flag lap, would you believe? And so Aidan Hills, surely now his championship hopes are pretty much out of the window. Well, that is brilliant news for this man, Luke Herbert, the points leader, who gets the race underway then from 7th place on the grid. With no Aidan Hills out there, could it now be becoming a 2-horse race for the championship? And if so, the result of this race could be all the more pivotal between Herbert and Harding. It's Gary Townsend, though, that leads them into the first corner. Patrick Fletcher goes up the inside of Luke Herbert and eases Harding the wrong side of the floppy marker post there. Harding had to go through the dirt and has, I think, just about been able to hang on to it. Jack Sycamore's off on the run-off area as well, and Harding has to run across the shortcut, the chicane as well. Rejoins now just in front of Herbert, who is waving at Harding, saying, now look, you are not allowed to hold on to this position because you held on to it in the first place by cutting the corner. But Harding is actively defending now for his big time rival, who goes right around the outside. Herbert trying to, well, this is brave stuff. This could end in tears on the exit of the corner, and Harding was always going to push him to the edge of the road. Now Herbert will not be happy with this. He will feel that Harding should have given that position away after the 43 car cut the chicane. But again, Herbert will say that he was in front anyway, therefore why should he give the place away? But that certainly is not what Herbert will be thinking. So Townsend leads the way then, Henderson second, Stevenson's third, but Steve Roberts is going up the inside of him for third place, and Herbert's up the inside of Harding as well. And I think that might, no, he still hasn't made it stick, so Harding is still in front of him. This is crucial because remember, Herbert started one position in front of Jack Harding. Harding twice in the opening half a lap was off the road and is still in front. So there's Gary Townsend then leading the race, leading the Masters class as well. Turning through the hairpin. Oh, Fletcher there just has a little look up the inside of Will Stevenson. Harding up the inside of him as well. As Herbert goes to the outside line, Harding sideways, gets back in line though before Herbert can get alongside him. Only just Herbert trying to get to the inside. First corner again, Patrick Fletcher there looking up the inside of Will Stevenson. That's for fourth position, and he's going through, so Stevenson slipping backwards here, as you might expect really. Oh, Bradley Kent's off into the gravel trap, just misses the end of the barrier. That could have been a big accident had he not got hold of that. Herbert's up the inside of Harding again into the chicane, and Jack Harding again will cut it. Now surely this time he will have to concede the position to Herbert, who is back alongside him. Watch for the hand gestures. Herbert's got the inside line anyway, so he's going to go through. So in the end, it's on as even, it's all been restored. Patrick Fletcher locks up and goes straight on. Oh, Patrick Fletcher towards the barrier, does he miss it? Oh, just about, I think. He's off into the field, and that is the familiar sight here at Croft of the roll cage of a car peeking out above the tall grass in the farmer's field down at Tower, and it's Jack Sycamore who joins the list of, and a long list it is, of very well-known racing drivers who have ended up in that exact position. But sadly, Fletcher's chance of a podium has now gone begging. Steve Roberts' chances of a podium, or maybe even a race win, are increasing by the corner though. He goes second up the inside of David Henderson. Luke Herbert and Jack Harding are right in the hornet's nest here. They need to be careful. One false move from any of these drivers could spell disaster for the top 2 in the championship. Harding goes to the outside of Herbert again, going right round the outside. He might gain 2 places in one, but he's on the dirty side of the road. Herbert fights back. How does this all work out into the right-hander? Still side by side between the two of them, and the hairpin is coming up as well. Herbert needs to make a move to get past Will Stevenson, but he's boxed in on the inside. Herbert going on the inside, Harding on the outside. They're knocking into each other like castanets. This is fantastic stuff. And Steve Roberts, whilst all this is going on, is challenging for the race lead around the outside. Gary Townsend. Steve Roberts is trying to go into first first position. Can he do it? He's looking for his first win of the year. Herbert and Harding trading paint into the first corner for the race lead. It's still side by side. Roberts right around the outside of Townsend. They're turning right again. They lean on each other. Townsend will not give in. They both run out wide though, and David Henderson looks to the inside now. Phenomenal racing here in this reverse grid race at Croft. Roberts takes the shortcut, rejoins in the race lead. He surely won't be allowed to hang on to that one. Harding, I think, has just done exactly the same thing. Herbert is still alongside him on the right-hand side of the road with Will Stevenson in front. Which way do you go? There's nowhere to go. That's the problem. The road is blocked in front of them, and Jack Harding goes where no one else has, round the outside, but he risks getting put into the dirt. No, he finds some traction, finds some space, but then he's boxed in again on the exit of the corner, so Luke Herbert gets his nose back in front. They need to get out of this swarming pack of cars racing at the back end of the top 5, but that is easier said than done around a circuit like Croft, where we've documented it's not easy to overtake. It is, however, easy to overtake when the car in front of you lets you through, and that's exactly what just happened between Steve Roberts and Gary Townsend, as Harding's up the inside of Herbert again into sunny out. They almost touch once more as they turn through the right-hander. The reason that Roberts has let Townsend back through is because he cut the chicane and gained the lead by running off the road, which is not allowed, so he's sensibly let the Masters driver back through. For 5th position, it's still Herbert ahead of Harding, but now Jack Sycamore joins in the fun. Jack Sycamore, remember, coming from the back of the grid after his late retirement in race number 2. Townsend's out wide, Roberts is back up the inside, they're banging into each other. They're side by side again off the final corner. You hardly know where to look in this race. This is proper Mazda MX-5 SuperCup racing. The likes of which we haven't seen for a while, really. This is brilliant stuff, but it's getting a little bit physical out there, and you sense it's only a matter of time before someone ends up getting upset by all of this. Through the first corner they go. Townsend somehow still hanging on from what's this, about an 8 or 9 car train for the lead. Well, Stevenson's up the inside of David Henderson, Steve Roberts up the inside of Gary Townsend for the race lead again. Oh no, Townsend still will not say die. Oh, where's everyone gone? Because Herbert's into 3rd now. Oh, Stevenson enters stage right, he's cut the chicane. Herbert going for 2nd now, the inside of Steve Roberts, that holds him up. Harding to the outside will go through, surely might even have a crack at Roberts under braking, but Herbert will surely fight back on the inside line. This is terrific stuff. Great respect being shown for the time being. Is there more contact on the exit? No. And Harding finds the traction despite being on the grass, has the inside line for the Jim Clark S's, trying to go into 3rd position as Steve Roberts goes for the race lead. No, that won't work. Backs off. It's going to stack everyone up behind him. Roberts is sideways. Herbert into the back of him, and Harding goes past both of them. Jack Harding into 2nd position. Fantastic, opportunistic driving, and all of a sudden it's Jack Harding who's on the tail of Gary Townsend now. Oh, I need to breathe at some point. I haven't done so since the start of the race, and I don't think I'm going to get a chance for a while, because this pack shows no sign of relenting their phenomenal, ferocious racing at the front of the field. And Gary Townsend, who has never won a race in the MX-5 SuperCup, is still out in front, but he's got some of the heavy hitters in the championship now breathing down his neck. Jack Harding into 2nd place, Steve Roberts 3rd, with Luke Herbert 4th. Townsend again is wide at the hairpin, and this time allows Jack Harding alongside, but Harding needs to be careful because this is the outside line for turn number 1, and Steve Roberts is closing again in the slipstream. They could be 3 abreast at this rate when they reach the first corner. Roberts goes with Townsend because he does not want Harding to get the lead, because we know that Jack probably has the pace to escape. Oh, Harding in risk of getting up in the gravel trap, but Townsend shows him lots of respect there, left him some room. Steve Roberts does not though. They're 4 abreast through Hawthorne, and Luke Herbert's up the inside of everybody. Steve Roberts will get the lead. No, cuts the chicane. So does Townsend, so does Harding, and it's anybody's guess who comes out of that on top. It's Roberts for the time being, but for the, 2nd or 3rd time in this race, he cuts the chicane and ends up coming out with the race lead. Herbert was the only one really that didn't cut the chicane, and he is 2nd. Townsend, unfortunately, I think is on a one-way ticket to the back of this group now, because they are all clambering over each other to have a go at him. And now that Roberts and Herbert have got through, Harding has to do the same. He cannot afford to let them escape, and I think he's managed to go through as they head through the Jim Clark S's. Yes, he has, and Stevenson as well. And now Jack Sycamore has a run on Gary Townsend, goes right around the outside. And yeah, Gary Townsend, unfortunately, once you lose that momentum and you end up on the dirty side of the road, there is very little you can do with a huge queue of cars right behind you. They are all likely to go through. This is incredible. This is incredible racing from the MX-5 SuperCup. This race marks the halfway point of the season, remember, and you can just tell that the intensity level is starting to go up. The friendships are starting to fray now, and these drivers who usually show a lot of respect to each other, and they are very often in the paddock scene having a chat with a drink and a bite to eat over the barbecue, laughing and joking. They all get on reasonably well, usually, but if we start getting into the end of the season, every point matters, every position matters, and these reverse grid races in particular can get very, very lively indeed. But it now does look as though things might start to settle into a bit of a rhythm, with Steve Roberts out in front, looking for his first victory of the year, Herbert second, Harding third. So as things stand at the moment, it would be Herbert then who's actually able to take a couple of points out of Jack Harding. Fastest lap is sort of irrelevant at the moment, you feel, because they've all been tripping over each other, so it looks as though in the next couple of laps we may see the lap record, or the fastest lap at least, get broken. This is, well, finally, I think, after nearly 10 minutes of racing, things have calmed down enough that we can breathe and we can sit back and just take stock of the situation, which is that somehow these three all got through in one piece, but Harding does not seem to have the pace. This is the first time that we've seen him running in traffic all weekend long. He's led every lap of every one of the first two races, remember, this weekend, and now he's down in third, does not seem to quite have the pace to go with the top two. Now that might be set up, it may be that he's got some damage somewhere along the way. That really wouldn't be a huge surprise given how much body-to-body contact there was going through the around the first half of the race, but whatever it is, he's not quite able to go with Roberts and Herbert. Steve Roberts, likewise, it's the first time we've seen him right at the front of the field all weekend, and indeed for a little while, really, because Roberts didn't have a brilliant time of it last time out at Anglesey. In fact, he had a podium in race one, but then beyond that didn't break into the top five. So Roberts had a bit of a bad season. He's looking fairly secure in the championship, and may actually be able to catch Aidan Hills now. This, of course, will become one of Aidan's dropped scores, but if Roberts can win this race, then he might actually be able to close in on Aidan Hills for a top three place in the championship, which would be quite something. Hills with his finish just ends what's been a disastrous day, really. Aidan was telling me after race 2 that he didn't realise that Patrick Fletcher, directly behind him, had a 5-second penalty as well. So Aidan went for that move on the last lap thinking, well, what the hell, I can't lose anything out of this because I'm going to finish 5th place anyway. But of course he wouldn't have done. He would have finished 4th because Fletcher also had a penalty. So he ended up costing himself 2 valuable points. But those 2 points now seem a little insignificant given the fact that he's not even going to, didn't even manage to start this race. So no points scored at all from this final race at Croft for Aidan Hills. And he is, I'm sure, very entertained, but a very frustrated spectator up at this part of the circuit where the car broke down on the green flag lap. Jack Sycamore then has got his old playmate from the previous 2 races, Will Stevenson, in front of him. Luke Herbert is about what he can do about Steve Roberts. But I'm convinced Herbert's going to be willing to take a huge risk here. I think this has been a massive bullet dodge this weekend for Herbert. Always sideways there as he turned into the middle part of the complex, but when you consider that he has finished behind his big rival in both of the races so far this weekend, and then any one of a number of things could have gone wrong in the first half of this race that could have sent him off the road completely, but it didn't. He survived it okay. Quite a great match to have just come out of it all in second position. So as things stand, any damage that Harding's done so far this weekend would be negated. Essentially, despite winning both of the first 2 races, Harding has only taken 2 points out of Luke Herbert, and Herbert right now is set to take at least 2 points out of him in this race, so it will even the scoreboard again. Sycamore the inside of Will Stevenson there in slightly forceful fashion. Stevenson takes to the runoff area. Has been a bit of a bone of contention this weekend, but I think he will probably have to give that one up. Still a bit of a question mark maybe over Steve Roberts in the lead of this race, because he did cut that chicane when he went through, but I think given the fact that everybody else pretty much also cut the chicane, I don't think there was any real advantage gained, so he should be okay. But Luke Herbert, of course, didn't. He stayed on the road, and he'll be maybe feeling a bit miffed at that, but as I said, I think all things considered, I'm too dissatisfied with how this race has worked out so far. Into the second half of the race now as well, by the way, in fact about 2/3 of the way through. Bit of damage there to the back of Herbert's car. Again, perhaps not that big a surprise, but the rear bodywork just flapping in the wind. That will certainly not be helping his straight line speed any. There's a bit of a headwind down the pit straight this weekend as well, which means that the slipstream effect is exaggerated down that front stretch, negated slightly down the back straight towards Tower. Townsend here, and he's being able to close in on Sycamore and Stevenson as they do battle in front of him, but Sycamore having got through, not really being able to pull away for the time being. The previous race, of course, it was Stevenson that was applying the pressure to him and then went through. Sycamore threw it onto the grass coming out of the chicane. Very nearly ended up off the road and out of the race completely before retiring anyway on the last corner with a mechanical fault. laps here of Steve Roberts as they come through the chicane. Can he get a toe down the back straight? As I said, it's a tailwind chasing them down that straight, though, so the slipstream is not quite as effective as it maybe would be. That, by the way, is David Henderson, who was on the pole position for this race. Sadly got rather shuffled out in the early going. Bradley Kent there racing with George Grant. Kent Motorsport squad running well this weekend. Bradley's already watched his brother Lewis win a couple of TCR races here at Croft this weekend. His first two overall victories of the year. Bradley not quite at that level yet in the Super Cup, but he has had his first Super Series victories as... Oh, that was a real effort to get up the inside from Luke Herbert, but as I said, Steve Roberts was telling me that he's good through this part of the circuit. He can carry more speed through there, he feels, than anybody else, and that certainly seemed to be the case on that occasion. I'm surprised that Herbert was willing to take that bigger risk, though, knowing that he's doing enough at the moment to retain the points advantage that he had arriving here at Croft over Jack Harding. Good weekend this for Jack, though, who at his home circuit was keen to try and get some good results, to get some more wins on the card. And he's actually closed in on these two now, so that is applying the pressure to Luke Herbert once more. Across the line they go. Back to Clervaux once again. Harding keeping a watching brief here. He will be determined to try and get past Herbert if he can, though, and he's now close enough to definitely start making an effort to do so. Working their way through Hawthorne then. And now Herbert is in that all too familiar position of being the meat of the sandwich. Car in front, car in behind, and then you really are stuck. You can't really do much about the car in front until you deal with the car behind. One car though, under braking, holding on to this second place. He hasn't got that number one for nothing. Knows how to handle this situation well, does Luke Herbert. Jack Sycamore and Will Stevenson still racing hard. With Gary Townsend again with them, but not really quite able to join in the fun, which is a shame because they're having an awful lot of fun by the looks of it, those two. Incapable, it would seem, of getting away from each other this weekend. Despite the fact that they started at opposite ends of the grid for this one, Stevenson 3rd and Sycamore 14th, but they've still sort of met in the middle. Stevenson slipped down the order and Sycamore's made some great progress from the very back. Damage is getting worse, isn't it, on the rear of Luke Herbert's car. I don't think it's going to be enough to attract the attention of the clerk of the course and warrant a black and orange mechanical warning flag, but it certainly, as I said, will not be helping the aerodynamic nature of that car. In fairness, my garden shed is more aerodynamic than the Mazda MX-5, but that's what makes the racing so good. If you add any extra wind resistance, which that bumper certainly is, then you lose an extra maybe mile an hour or so. With it being just as close as it is in this championship at the moment, that could make all the difference. First corner, over the curb. Really threading the eye of a needle there at very high speed through the first sequence of corners, which is what Jack Sycamore, Will Stevenson and Gary Townsend are about to do. You can see a few drivers have taken a bite out of that tyre stack on the apex of the corner, just peeling away some of the plastic wrapping around those tyres, but if you hit them properly, you can really damage your car. Again, that's something that has caught out many a driver over the years here at Croft. Top three then, getting themselves closer together. Roberts with a little mistake there, just dips a wheel onto the grass off in the distance, just in front of the blue car of Luke Herbert in front of us. Man free to attack, no pressure from behind. These three have built up a sizable margin now over everybody else scrapping behind. Sunny. Oh, and that's Jack Sycamore. Jack Sycamore's off the road. He's going to spin back into the road right in front of Gary Townsend, and that was a scary moment there. That's not a good place to go off at all. He was very lucky to avoid getting T-boned there by Townsend as he came across the road. Gary Townsend may be one of the older drivers on the field, but his reactions are clearly as good as anything. And it was down to his quick reactions that Jack Sycamore got away without any damage there. He should be able to rejoin, albeit quite a long way down the field. That looked as though maybe that battle with Stevenson perhaps went awry. With Luke Herbert then down to turn one once again into the closing stages of this race now. Steve Roberts hanging on for all he is worth here, but Luke Herbert is still there. If there's any mistake worth mentioning for Roberts, then Herbert will be capable, I'm sure, of taking advantage. But what does Jack Harding do in third? That is the big question, really. If Harding feels that he can go for this, then he must give it a go, because he needs these points. However, Jack Harding, I'm being told, is being warned for exceeding track limits, and so too Patrick Fletcher again, unfortunately, albeit Patrick's a bit further down the field in this one after a moment earlier on into the field. This man here, Jack Harding, being warned for exceeding track limits. He doesn't need to be giving away any more points, although they're significantly clear of everybody else, so he's not likely to lose any positions, but it means that even if he were to get past the cars in front, a 5-second penalty would mean that he would not benefit from that at all. He's not yet been given the penalty, but it is on the cards, so to speak. He's definitely being warned about it. The complex again. Harding all over Luke Herbert here, giving him the work over into the hairpin. Meanwhile, further back down the order, 96 is Chris Richardson. Behind him, David Henderson, who's gained some positions now, actually. He's got a bit further up that queue than last time we saw him. It's on to the final lap of the race we go, and there is a 5-second penalty for Jack Harding. Jack Harding being given the 5-second penalty now for exceeding track limits, and that well and truly takes the pressure off Luke Herbert. If he saw it, that is, if Herbert noticed that board. It's possible that even Harding didn't, but Jack Harding has been given 5-second time penalty, and so has Patrick Fletcher, by the way. So two more drivers then being given the penalty. There is Fletcher, in fact, the black and red car at the back of that group. He's caught them doing so. He's used more of the scenery that he should have done. I'm sure that penalty is not from when he went off down at Tower. That may have been exceeding track limits, but he certainly didn't benefit from that. But in his frustration and determination to close back in, unfortunately he's done it again. So Harding then will finish third now, as long as he doesn't go off the road. He's not going to be caught by anyone else, even with a penalty, but he's actually dropped back from the leading two anyway. That frees up Luke Herbert, maybe, for one last-ditch effort to get past Steve Roberts, but I don't know whether he's going to be able to do it. Through Sonny in, through Sonny out, further back. There's been more changing. Henderson and Grant are both ahead of Richardson now. Bradley Kent's going around the outside of him as well. Ray Worley joining in the fun too. It's got trouble written all over it, that little group. We'll focus on the leaders for now, because Luke Herbert is all over Steve Roberts again. One more corner to go, but it is the hairpin. We've seen many a last lap move made here at Croft over the years, and Herbert's thinking about it. Got to the inside, no, not quite, but Roberts is sideways off the corner. Herbert will have the better exit from the turn, but I think he will just about run out of time. And for the first time in 2019, Steve Roberts is going to win, is he? Yes, just they're side by side at the line, and the winning margin is just over 1/10 of a second for Steve Roberts, who does take his first victory of the season. Luke Herbert is second, Jack Harding comes home third, and then a big, big wait for Gary Townsend, who will come home fourth, because Will Stevens has been given a penalty for driving standards, not for the first time this season, so it will be Townsend fourth, Rutter fifth, and Jack Sycamore sixth, with Will Stevenson, David Henderson, Bradley Kent and Ray Worley rounding out the top 10. Then it's Patrick Fletcher, Chris Richardson and George Grant, with Aidan Hills a non-starter, and that may have put paid to his championship aspirations.
Bless you, you look like you put everything into that race.
I did. I've been searching for a win for a while, since Donington last year, so yeah, pleased to get that one.
By all means, you had everyone in the grandstand on their toes. Every time you guys are coming around, we didn't know who was going to be leading the pack, but you seem to have snuck in there and held your position.
Yeah, well, I had a great start, and I kind of had the race won if I just kept my head, but I was very keen to get in front, should we say, and then Jack and Luke came back through, and then it didn't feel like a reverse grid race after that. You know, it was difficult, but RBR gave me a great car, and we had serious pace. That's why I've been so frustrated all weekend. I thought, I can just get out and clear out. I think I can at least keep the lead and gap them, and I didn't quite do that. But I think, you know, Luke was more worried about Jack, but I had good pace, and I don't think I was holding anyone up, and I was dragging them along. So no, I felt like it was a good win.